Hey, this is Aisha here. So today I wanted to talk about the topic, learning how to accept help as a single mom. So one of the things that I realized that I'm literally learning how to overcome is the strong black woman syndrome. And where I think that I don't need help, I got everything on my own, right? And I think sometimes society can put this burden on single moms to make us think that if we, and I think anybody really, I think a lot of people have a hard time asking for help because for whatever reason, help has become synonymous with being weak or that you can't do it on your own. But I also think that there's this other pressure, this societal pressure for single moms in that, why would you accept help? Because these are your kids, deal with it. And I remember I actually tell this story in my book, Navigating the Impossible, a survival guide for single moms from pregnancy through their first year of motherhood. I tell this story where a single mom that I know, her mom came over to her house to help her fold laundry and to help her do laundry. And she literally shouted out her mom to say, thanks for helping out with laundry. And so she received this nasty comment under the post talking about, these are your kids. You need to figure it out and don't inconvenience your mom. And I think sometimes that we can think that when we're accepting help, even if somebody else offers it, that we're being an inconvenience, right? And so in the book, I literally have two whole chapters on, maybe three, two or three, on building your support system. And I'm not going to talk about how to ask for help today, but what I do want to talk today about how to accept help if it's offered, because we tend to have a hard time asking for help, but we also have a hard time accepting help when someone offers it. And so it's funny because after I released the book, I really thought that okay, I'm good now. I know how to accept help if someone offers it. But recently I ended up in this situation where I realized that I still have work to do in terms of accepting help, because a friend of mine reached out to me and offered to do something really kind for me and my kids. And it's something that she actually does for a living. And so I felt guilty accepting the blessing, right, without paying for it. And so I let her know, you know what, I would love to have you do this. I think it's amazing that you reached out to me, but it's not in the budget right now. And I want a side note. This is why it's also important to have a spending plan, so that way you know where all your money is going and you have a plan for it in the beginning. And so it can guide the things that you do, the things that you say yes to, the things that you say no to, the things that you say not now to. And that'll help you stay on track with your financial goals. So I just wanted to segue into that short aside just a little bit, to talk to you, to pull out some of the financial literacy lessons in this as well. But yeah, so I let her know, I would love to have you do this, but I respect what you do, but I'm just not in a position. It's just not in the budget right now, right? And one of the things she said, she's like, no worries. I'm you don't have to pay me. It is cool. It is totally cool. It's good. And I really struggled. I was just like, yeah, I don't know. Let me get back to you, right? I knew I was free, right? I knew I was available to meet up with her, and I knew I was free. But I was just like, yeah, I don't know. And I really struggled with it. I wrestled with it for a better part of a day. Almost a whole day, wrestling with, do I say yes? Do I accept this blessing? Because in my mind, I don't know. I just felt guilty about it. And so that's when I realized that I still have room to grow. I'm like, okay, so even though I wrote the book, even though there are some things that I've overcome, that I've learned how to accept help with, there's still other areas and levels with accepting help. And so this also let me know some different growth opportunities as well, and deeper levels of healing, because I think one of the things that receiving help is tied to is your level of healing, because sometimes we can be so broken in terms of our interactions with other people. It makes it hard not to just ask for help, but to accept help as well. Because I don't know if you've ever been in a situation where somebody offered to do something for you, but then threw it in your face and kind of held it over your head about how they helped you in the past. And so rather than it being this generous thing, this offering of help birthed from the overflow of generosity, it was usually used, it was in reality used as a form of manipulation and control. And so sometimes we can have hurt and trauma associated with with accepting help from the past. Other times, we can have problems accepting help because when we've done it before, people weren't there, or they broke their word, or, they might have made you feel guilty or for whatever reason. So there can be a lot of trauma associated with accepting help. And so if you feel like you're in a position where you're having a hard time receiving help, I encourage you to go back and check past trauma to see how that past trauma has impacted your ability to help going forward. And the other thing that it helped me to see is that there were some areas of pride that I needed to really erase. And so we know that if we look at the Bible, and I don't have the scriptures with me right now, but the Bible, like, God is very clear that he hates pride. He said what does it say? He elevates the humble. Well, God hates pride. And so, but anyway, God hates pride and he loves the humble and he elevates the humble, right? And so it showed me an area of pride that I still had, a pride of, what would it look like if I said yes to the offer of help? Like, what would she think if, like, I was accepting what the blessing that she was giving to me, right? What would she think? Like, is she going to think less of me because I say yes, right? And so there were things of pride. There were areas of pride that were really driving that decision as well. Like, oh, I don't need help. Like, you know what I'm saying? And so I think it's important to also check our hearts and our spirits to see if pride, whether it's I got this, I can do it all on my own, or pride in terms of not letting somebody see an area of vulnerability or area where you might not have it all together, and to allow yourself to be vulnerable and transparent. So sometimes we use that pride to kind of cover up and hide some of the things that might be going on, or to make it seem like we're super women and we've got it all together. And so sometimes pride can be a barrier as well. And so as I started to think back to this incident, as I was reflecting on it, like, okay, why did I have such a hard time saying yes? So long story short, I ended up saying yes to the offer of help, but like I said, it took me about a better part of a day to decide to be able to do it after wrestling with it for a while. But I started to ask myself, okay, I realized that I have areas where I need to grow in terms of learning how to accept help. And I know that, but what are the barriers, right? What are some of the things that I can learn from this? And what are the things that I can share from this story to help other people, other single moms, learn how to accept help? Because the thing is, if we look at Ecclesiastes, we're not meant to do life alone. The Bible is very clear that we are to do life as a triple braided cord, right? Where it's us, other people, and God, right? Because God uses people to bless other people. God uses people to get his work done. We're meant to be in community. When we look at Adam and Eve, God said it's not good for man alone. So he created him a helpmeet, right? He created Eve for Adam because it was not good for man to be alone. But sometimes we can get in this mode where we feel like we have to do it all by ourselves, and it can be hard to let other people in, and it can be hard to allow people to help us because, like I said in the past, we might have been disappointed in the past, and sometimes this just came to me. Sometimes we might even have trouble accepting help from God. We might pray to God for help. We might petition God for help. Sometimes we don't even do that. But when God shows up, sometimes it's hard to believe that God will even show up, that he hears our prayers, that he cares enough about us to show up when we need him. And so sometimes it's even hard to go to God and ask for help. Like, this is how serious this whole accepting help is. And so I started to ask, and then one of the reasons why I realized, at least with me, when I had trouble accepting help from God or going to God for help, I realized that it was the disappointment from other people that led me to question if God was who he said he was, right? And sometimes the difficulties that I went through in life caused me to question if God was who he said he was. And I had to dig into the word of God to be able to understand that I can trust the character of God. I can trust the power of God. But that does not mean that it's not at times still difficult, because sometimes that past letdowns from people can still ring loud in my mind, even though I know that that doesn't apply to God. And I think that the same may be true for you, even in the area of asking of receiving help. You know that the person who's offering the help might be genuine, but your experiences with other people just provide such a big barrier for you saying yes. And so what are some other barriers? I mentioned pride earlier. 2 is guilt and the belief that it would be inconvenient for the other person. And so sometimes we can project on the other people and think that if we allow them to help, that it will be in some way, shape, or form inconvenient. And that was something that I was telling myself when my friend asked me, offered to help. It was something that she was going to be doing anyway, right? And she wanted to include me and my kids. But the thing is that in some way, I thought that it was going to be inconvenient for her. I made up this story in my mind about how inconvenient it was going to be for her and how I needed to say no to protect her from being inconvenienced. And I think that sometimes we can come up with these ideas and these projections in our minds about the impacts of someone else helping us is going to be, and that we talk ourselves out of receiving help. We talk ourselves out of receiving a blessing because we're rejecting it, and we're not even giving somebody an opportunity to be able to help. I remember this is a story that I share in Navigating the Impossible, a survival guide for single moms from pregnancy through the first year of motherhood. I share this, that some people, God has touched their heart and called and has asked them to offer to help, right? And in some way, their blessing might be tied to blessing you. And when you rob them of their opportunity to help you, you're also blocking them from their blessings, right? And so that you might be blocking them from their joy. Some people, like, helping others, acts of service is a true love language. And so sometimes when people offer to help, they're showing love in the language that they know how to, and you're denying them the opportunity to show that love. And sometimes it's also tied to their blessings, because sometimes blessings can be conditional. And so I encourage you to tear down those narratives, tear down that pride, tear down those barriers that are preventing you from accepting good help. Not all help is good help. Some help is terrible help. Some help is bad help. Some help harms your children. So use discernment. Please use discernment in who you accept help from. And I talk about that in the book too, in the childcare section. Don't let everybody watch your kids. Please don't. All help is not good help. 3, fear of being disappointed. And so I've touched on this quite a bit earlier. Fear of being disappointed. Fear that the person who says that they're going to help, offers to help, isn't going to come through. And I know, and I shared this in the book as well, I had that happen to me early on when I was pregnant. I had a number of people offer. Like I said, I didn't go asking for help. It's for some people I asked, but for most people they offered to help. And like I said in the book, I give a very good and solid and detailed framework about how to ask and receive help. And in that, I had people offer to help, literally come to me and say, "This is how I want to help. How can I help you? Here's how I can help." I accepted the help. And when it was time to show up, they weren't there. And so for me, receiving help triggered a fear of being disappointed. And so I didn't want to actually accept the help, go through the pride, tear down the pride, right? Tear down those barriers only to be disappointed. And so not accepting help was a way of protecting myself from being disappointed. And then again, we have to be able to get over that, because we realize that if we shut down, if we cut ourselves off, then there's no way, right, that you can ever receive help. There's no way that you can create a new narrative and framework in your mind. It's always going to be the old script running through your mind. And we have to understand that even though some people have disappointed us, that there are really good people in this world who will come alongside of us, who will help us, who will be a part of our support system, who will encourage us, right? And so number 4 is fear of what people would think if you say yes to the help. And so that was something that I said earlier in the story that I shared. I was afraid about what she would think if I said yes to her extension of the opportunity of the offer of help. I was just like, what is she gonna think? Like, what is she gonna think? Because I'm sitting here saying that, it's not in the spending plan, it's not in the budget. So what is she gonna think, right? And I was really trying to and this is honestly, I don't know why I'm saying this, but this is one thing that I've literally been working through in therapy. It's why do I feel the need to micromanage other people's opinions about me? That is not my concern. But yeah, I put on this superwoman cape, this superhero cape, acting like I have it all. And sometimes I'm exhausted and I might want to, not to say that I don't have a great support system, but I do, because I do. But I still struggle with asking for help. And sometimes I would rather burn myself out trying to do it myself rather than allowing somebody to help. And so I realized that part of that was a fear of, are they going to think that I don't have it all together? Are they going to think, what are they going to think about my finances? Like, what are they going to think? And sometimes our desire to almost create an image or almost like a caricature of who we are, or this superhero persona, can impact our ability to ask for help, because asking for help shows, by nature, requires us to be vulnerable. Not asking for help, but also receiving help by nature requires us to be vulnerable. And so I think that those are 4 barriers to receiving help. And I challenge you to think about these. Replay this video and ask yourself, what are your barriers to accept help? Because sometimes the blessings that we're praying through, sometimes the breakthroughs that we're praying for are going to come through other people. And I think that we make this mistake sometimes when we're waiting on God, when we're praying to God, we're asking God to show up. Sometimes I think that we know that the blessing's not going to fall from the sky, but yet we act like it is. And so when God sends people our way to bless us, to be able to help us, we say no because of trauma. And so sometimes you might be blocking your own blessings, like answered prayer is staring you in the face, but you refuse to accept the help to allow that answered prayer to become, that prayer to actually get answered. And so I think that this is super important for you to work through. I know as a result of this revelation, this is something that I'm digging through as well, trying to ask myself, what are the areas where there's still hurt? Where are the areas that are still pain? What are the areas that are still trauma, that are impacting my ability to say yes? Because we can't ignore little situations, right? Because sometimes these little situations reveal big truths in our lives, truths that we thought we healed from, things that we thought that we moved past from, things that we thought were settled. But what the Lord is revealing through these things, through these experiences, is where we need to go deeper in terms of our healing, so we can have that true lasting breakthrough. And so we can be the people that God has called us to be the moms that God has called us to be. And so we don't have to do it alone, but we can do it a part of God's community and God's family, because that is how we are meant to go through life. So make sure, if you don't have a copy of Navigating the Impossible, a survival guide for single moms from pregnancy through their first year of motherhood, make sure you grab a copy. It is on Amazon, or if you want a signed copy, head to navigatingtheimpossiblebook.com and leave me a comment. Make sure you subscribe. Make sure you like this video. Make sure you share this video with other people, and let me know how this helps you, to break through into your next level, and how this will help you to, even improving your finances as well. Who knows how the Lord is going to use this message. And so have a good one.